Kia ora, and welcome to Monday's Economy Watch, where we follow the economic events and trends that affect Aotearoa. I'm David Chaston, and this is the international edition from interest.co.nz, and today we lead with news that while much of the financial world seems disconnected from economic reality, we are about to be reminded of our local realities this week. This week will be all about the RBNZ OCR review on Wednesday. Will it be a 25 basis points cut or a 50 basis point cut? Financial markets do not know, but then again, neither do analysts. Banks have been assuming a 25 basis point cut at least, and have trimmed their one-year fixed home loan rates by this much. But since the last OCR review, one-year swap rates have fallen 31 basis points. So if there is a 50 basis point cut on Wednesday, expect those swap rates to fall almost immediately, and banks to follow that up with more fixed-rate mortgage reductions. Savers will be looking on nervously because the rates offered to them in term deposits also face the same downward pressures. In Australia, it will be all about the Westpac Consumer Confidence Survey this week, the NAB Business Confidence Survey, and consumer inflation expectations. And of course, parts of the eastern states are now back on daylight savings time, so basically back to 2 hours behind New Zealand, except Brisbane, of course, which stays 3 hours behind. And the US government shutdown will remain the focus this week in the world's major financial markets, as the extended impasse between the members of Congress showed little signs of improvement. The shutdown jeopardises releases from the US federal agencies, including the trade balance, jobless claims, and the budget statement after the September jobs report, and other key data has already been delayed. Still, the minutes from the FOMC's last meeting is still expected. Among non-US government releases, October's University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey will be eyed. Over the weekend, the ruling LDP party in Japan selected a new Prime Minister, notable because it is Japan's first female Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi. Takaichi, who was 64, was known to be close to the late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, another prominent right-wing leader of the LDP. She has publicly stated that she sees former UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher as her role model. She's been called a China hawk. Locally, some fear they may be getting a Liz Truss. In China, the massive Mid-Autumn Festival holiday is underway. China's railways handled an all-time record 23 million passenger trips last Wednesday, the first day of the 8-day holiday. Across the Pacific in the US over the weekend, the ISM released its services PMI for September, and that showed a sector no longer expanding. New orders did though, but barely, but a sharp slowdown from August's rise. Business activity actually contracted, down near the brief dip in mid-2024, and apart from that, its lowest level since the pandemic in 2020. Analysts were not expecting this widely watched metric to be so downbeat. Price rise impulses were restrained. Businesses are not able to pass on tariff taxes in full, and that makes them feel quite constrained. In Canada, 5 provinces raised their minimum wages last week, following 5 who did it earlier in the year. As a result, British Columbia is now at $17.85 Canadian cents per hour. That's equivalent to almost $22 New Zealand. Ontario is at $17.60 an hour, Quebec at $16.10 an hour, and Alberta is the lowest at $15 Canadian dollars an hour. That's $18.45 New Zealand cents. Canadian housing markets are operating on a two-track basis now, rising sales volumes and falling sales prices. In Toronto, sales volumes rose 8.5% in September from a year ago to 5,592 homes sold, but average prices fell 4.7% on the same basis. And that was despite a central bank rate cut earlier in the month. More globally, the FAO Global Food Price Index fell in September, and in part that was due to retreating dairy prices. But they're still up 9% higher than year-ago levels. On the other hand, meat prices rose again to be 6.6% higher than year-ago levels. Sheep meat surged on limited supply and good demand. Beef prices rose sharply on to all-time high levels. And we should probably note that after rising to €84 a tonne in 2024 to start the year, EU carbon prices then fell back to €60 a tonne at the end of March. But since then, they've risen back to almost $80 a tonne now, and putting on a bit of a spurt in early October. While local carbon markets are struggling, the same is not true elsewhere. The US Treasury 10-year yield is now at 4.12% and unchanged from Saturday, but down 6 basis points for the week. And the price of gold will start today at $3,885 an ounce, up $3 from Saturday and a new high. That is up $113 or 2.9% from a week ago. Silver had another big spurt last week, now just under $48 an ounce, a weekly gain of 3.8%. American oil prices are softer at just under $61 a barrel, but down $4 from a week ago, with the international Brent price now just on $64.50 a barrel and down $5.50 from a week ago. And the Kiwi dollar is now just over 58.3 US cents, little change from Saturday, but up 50 basis points from a week ago. Against the Aussie, we're holding at 88.3 Australian cents. Against the euro, we're also unchanged at 49.7 euro cents. That all means our trade-weighted index starts today at just under 65.6, up 10 basis points from Saturday, up 40 basis points for the week. And the Bitcoin price starts today at $122,805 and virtually unchanged from this time Saturday. Volatility of the past 24 hours has been modest at just on plus or minus 1.5%. You can get more news affecting the economy in New Zealand from interest.co.nz. Kia ora, I'm David Chaston. We'll do this again tomorrow.